I want to clarify the word trauma. Uh, Most people, like when I ask somebody if they've experienced childhood trauma, almost always they say no, or they stop and think, I don't think so. And the reason that is because most people normalize everything that they've experienced in life because they don't know anything different. And so we just come to accept that what we go through is the way things are. We may not like it, but it just becomes kind of normal to us. So some of the people who have experienced the worst trauma that I've ever heard, most of those people will say, I don't really have a right to complain because somebody else has experienced worse than I do. And that's an indication that the word trauma may not be specific enough to help the person understand what we're talking about. The typical traumas that we see are related to abuse, especially childhood trauma. Any kind of trauma that is done at the hands of another human being tends to be more difficult to process than something that is an act of nature or an accident or whatever, because there's that personalized aspect. There's that belief, why me? Or the question, why me? What did I do to deserve this? Why does this person hate me so much? And many times that's apparent. So it's not only trauma, it's internalizing states of being or emotional states and beliefs about ourselves that tell us that we're not good enough, that we're not worth investing in ourselves, that we don't deserve good things to happen to us. And people don't really recognize when they have these beliefs because they're not really beliefs, they're more emotional experiences. They're more states of mind than they are beliefs. A belief is something that we think about and we kind of choose to go along with it. So it could be a parent constantly saying, you need to go out and get a job, you're worthless. That I hear that all the time. Parents just continually berating their child because they think that's what they have to do to motivate their child. And a lot of parents are using criticism as a way of motivation, and it works on one level, but it's very damaging in the long run. And that's what gets people stuck, is that they believe that they are that person. And so they live out their life according to that belief. So it doesn't take a huge amount of trauma. It takes consistently hearing that you're not good enough in order to be affected in the long run. So what happens is our brain internalizes or registers all of these things. Our brain registers everything, obviously, that we experience. And so if you're experiencing the feeling of not being good enough most of the time throughout your childhood, when your brain is developing the fastest and absorbing everything, that's going to stick with you. And what happens is people start unconsciously living their life in a way that matches the way that they feel about themselves. So we may be capable of achieving, hypothetically, say at a level of 8 on a scale of 1 to 10, but we go through life achieving at a level of 6. Why is that? It's because that's who we see ourselves as being, and we get stuck in that way of functioning. And we can make really strong efforts to move out of that into a better state, but there's something that keeps pulling us back into that same reality. And that something is our conditioned mind. Our mind is conditioned to be in that state, and we will do things unconsciously to sabotage ourselves to be in that state. And the answer to all of this is consciousness. You have to be aware of what the reality is, of how much of what we do is determined by our childhood, how much we keep reenacting things that put us back in that same state of feeling shame and guilt.